Yeah. Ba- Ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da. You guys will be getting started shortly. Shortly. Apologies for yesterday. Um, Apparently, we had another abrupt ending. It's been a tough go with things lately. With the stream last night, well, so yesterday that happened, and then on the subsequent Halo stream later that night, the servers went down. Halo servers went down, so that got cut. I don't know. I got maybe, I think it was only two games in. So, shucks, darn, and phooey, but we back, baby. Gonna do it again. Just gonna do it again. That's all you can do sometimes. Just keep doing it. And if you fail, get up, do it again. Well, Nico, what if you fail? Well, do it again, and do it again, and do it again. So we're just gonna do it again. Now, I am going to try to speed things up a bit, just because I'm really getting the itch, man. Like I want to start building the thing. Although I've made commitments to myself, to you guys, and I want to honor those, just generally speaking. And what I mean by that is, I said we would go through this book. So we are. I mean, we're going to finish it. But, the I can just feel the excitement level creeping up, just because, you start to learn new things. You want to put them to use, so I'm getting that itch. But yeah, I want to be measured about it. And it's not a race. There's no, in terms of, in terms of when I want to get things done, I want to keep a sense of urgency around it, just because I think that's the best thing you can possibly do, just from a progress perspective. You want to keep some level of, I'll say, a healthy amount of pressure on yourself, so that's what I want to maintain. But I also don't want to overlook or overstep or skip things that are going to build that foundation. So, you know, uh, we're still going to go through the book. I'm just kind of talking out loud as I get ready. I guess you could say I'm stalling a little bit, but just a little bit. But we're going to get to it. Now, as far as the landscape, I'll give you guys this is my cathartic experience, by the way. So, although I may be talking out into the ether, here is the update. So, the the job interview went well, like I said, but the dude, the owner, is taking longer to get back to me than he said he would. And well, I guess fortunately and unfortunately, because there was three interviews, right? And at two times out of those three, he made a commitment to me in terms of like, hey, I'm going to send you an invite, or hey, I'm going to send you this or that. And twice he failed to do so, so I had to remind him, which is fine in the sense that I've come to kind of expect that. Especially, it's a small company, 10 people. I was working for another small company, and I mean, literally, that was my boss. Like, just very, I don't, forgetful is not the right word, but I'm not trying to defend anybody. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if you say you're going to do something, you should do it. But also, at the end of the day, if it's not life or death, I'm not going to sit here and like drag you through the mud over it. You feel what I'm saying? So, anyway, I say all that to say, I'm about to reach out to this brother, just be like, hey, man, just let me know what the verdict is. What's the good word, bird? But yeah, if that is good news, then that would mean that I'll start working on the 27th of this month. And sorry for the background noise. What the hell is that? That better be from the food. But anyway, I'll be working on starting work on the 27th, which it's not going to be a huge, sorry about the noise, but you're going to have to listen. So that would start on the 27th. And like I said before, I have a strong reason to believe that I'll be done we'll be done with this first iteration through that Swift book by then. So I don't think that will be impacted. But grand scheme, maybe I'll slow down like after the 27th. I mean, I'll probably look at slowing down to maybe like 3 streams a week, just so I can, I guess, acclimate. Maybe we'll see. I don't know. It really kind of depends. I mean, it's always, I think the hardest thing, one of the hardest things to kind of gauge with the new job is, like every company kind of has their own definition of what high pace or fast pace is, because lots of job descriptions, they kind of just have the corny, generic description, come work for a fast paced, energetic, high tech, all that stuff. And then you get there and it's like, it's like working in a public library. So it's always different. It's always hard to tell. But yeah, either way, I think the most important thing for me that I learned from my last, what ended up being like a 10-year commitment to the last job. But the thing that I learned is you got to be, how should I say this? This doesn't go for everybody, right? Because it just kind of depends on whatever your ethos is, like your default mode. And my default mode was always one of, like, I found myself being extremely grateful because I'm self-taught. So I needed somebody to give me a chance to get in there and like do certain things, technical things that you wouldn't just let some Joe off the street do. And if you don't have a degree and all that, obviously you have to find different methods of finding those opportunities, and that's what I was given. And so that's great. It's great to be grateful and all that stuff. Unfortunately, sometimes, not always, but sometimes you can overcompensate, and you can find yourself doing things that you really shouldn't be doing, at least not for additional compensation. And I don't want to harp on that too much. I'm just saying, oftentimes if somebody gives you a shot at something, right? They give you a shot at doing something that nobody else is willing to do as of yet. And then you start to do the thing, you're good at the thing, you progress, you learn. Okay. So at a certain point, whatever job, let's just call it, just for the sake of the example here, don't worry, we'll get started soon, but for the sake of the example here, let's say you get a job managing databases, right? Or not managing database. Like with me at my old job, I started in sales and eventually, I was writing applications. So that's a big jump in like the skill set that you're allowed to even practice at the job versus what you're actually expected to do. And so my point is that you need to protect and be aware of your market value at all times. So just that's probably the best way to put it, because it's not necessarily a dig at the company or the employee in the scenario, because when you have somebody that's self-taught and you're kind of giving them a shot, you're letting them try a few things, it's hard to kind of measure at what point they become, or at what point they start to fulfill the exact same duties and roles that somebody would have if you had search for a proper DBA, let's say, like a database administrator, right? So how does one business to the next necessarily know when the new guy, or not the new guy, but the inexperienced guy who you're letting gain experience on the job because you believe in them and they say they want to do it, so you give them a shot. Things just start happening, things are going well. How do you know, as the owner, or as the, well, yeah, we'll keep it at ownership. So how do you know that that person is now fulfilling the general market value of what you would have got if you just went out onto the market straight up and just said, hey, I'm looking for a DBA who wants the job, right? and then somebody comes along that already has experience. How do you know that? Well, the answer is you really don't. I mean, there is a way to know it for sure. If the person in the position to hire people is a technical person, they could know that, but otherwise they really wouldn't. And so it's important for the employee, like me in that case, to remember that and not continuously behave as though the organization is doing me a favor. Maybe at some point, they're giving you an opportunity, but you really shouldn't ever view it as a favor because there's no favors in business. There's always there's a, it's a transaction at all levels. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be, you can't be friends or you can't be friendly or whatever, but just in the back of your head, you need to always be thinking about that. Remember that, right? Let's all just keep it fair. Let's keep it fair. So I guess what I'm saying is you shouldn't always make the assumption that just because they gave you the opportunity when nobody else would, that you somehow need to overcompensate. Because if you're fulfilling the job, you're fulfilling the job. So you don't necessarily need to go balls out and go 14 hours a day, stress, and and that's what I was doing. And so the benefit I have now, is this is a much different ball game. And so, oh wait, he messaged me back. Oh my gosh, what did he say? Man, I had to take it down. Hell yeah, brother. I got the job, baby. Yeah. Oh yeah. Ah, never worried for a second. Okay. Woo, that's a big O. Wait, sorry, I had travel last night, then on site all weekend. Oh yeah, brother. Woo, thank you, Jesus. Boy, oh boy. Let me respond to this real quick. Let's see. Just need to cover offer letter and hiring terms, including performance incentives. Oh, okay, sure. I am in no particular rush. Now that I know. Excited. Oh, whoops. Dang it. On the 27th. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Can I get a motherfucking. Can I get a motherfucking. Oh, yeah. Damn it, I didn't hit it. Yeah. Ah, hit it. Yeah. Ah, damn it. Y'all remember that? That shit was so funny in the in the grocery store. Oh yeah. All right. Woo, baby. Oh, baby. Oh yeah, I got it, baby. I knew I was gonna nail that shit, baby. Couldn't couldn't keep me out. They try to keep me down. They try to keep me down. But I was around. I was around town. Yeah, then I wasn't found. Yeah. Now what, clown? Yeah, punk ass bitch. Gonna lay me off? You gonna lay me off? I'll get a better job, motherfucker. I'll get a better job, motherfucker. Ooh, my shit. Ah, ah, ah. Yeah, baby. Mm. God's got my back. We in here. We in here. Pa, 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 pa. Okay. All right. So let me right. The stream. Right. Okay. Let me use the restroom right fast. And is there I mean there must be, right? What is the is there Mac OS shortcut emoji menu? Surely there's one. Command control space. Oh, but it doesn't. Wait, what is this? But that's Alt. What is this one? Tab. Or what is this? It doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm just gonna go pee real quick. Hey, you know what? It's fine. Ah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Okay. Let me mute you real fast. Real fast. Okay, so one other thing that I'm just talking out loud here, but I thought it might be interesting to share this thought because, if anybody else comes across a small company, small business rather, this might prove useful because it might be somebody else in a similar situation as I. So here's the skinny, right? As you know, well, the topic here is salary negotiation, right? So they're going to basically what the guy just told me. I said, hey, the anticipation is killing me. Do you guys have a verdict, right? So he responds, he says, yeah, I got to just draft the offer letter, right? I draft the offer letter. And we also spoke about when we interviewed some performance incentives over time because basically the salary that I was making, I won't give exact numbers just because that's, I don't know. Mama taught me better than that. That's rude, not playing. No, I don't know. It just should I? Should I, brother? What do you think, Jer? Don't do it? Okay, fine. Fine. No, I'll give you ballpark numbers. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So the job that I was at, last job that I was at, when I left, I was making just north of 150, right? And that was it's really weird. So like the self-taught space in general, I think just I would assume this is more normal. I don't know this for a fact because I can only speak from my perspective. But I was somebody that I had the opportunity to go to college, get a degree, but I squandered it. I wasted that opportunity. I did. Just I'm not saying that that's the only way to get to a point where you're quote unquote successful, obviously. But the fact of the matter is, I squandered it, and I say I squandered it because at the end of the day, it was a decision I made. Like I chose to go enroll in community college, right? I was always a smart kid. I had A's in high school, all that, a 3 point something, whatever. But I didn't know much about, like I was a gamer nerd in high school. Like I didn't spend any time taking aptitude tests or really even learning what else was out there, like what was possible. I was stuck on girls and games, like girls and games, pussy and games. Sorry. If any kids watching, I apologize for that. But so females and games, that's kind of where my head was. And so I graduated when I was 17 years old, started going to school right out of the gate, and I just kind of fucked off for like 4 or 5 years, just no discernible direction in life. I was always thinking about stuff I wanted to do, stuff I wanted to try, but I wasn't disciplined enough to go and do it. Like go just sit and get the degree or whatever. But really also too, like there was never like a path. There was never a direct path in that college kind of arena that I felt like resonated with me, I suppose. So I kind of dicked around going back and forth. I mean, I was working, but I don't know. I just in my head, I guess I identified as a not like the woke shit. Like I identify as, non-binary. No, I'm not talking about that. But I just I was okay with telling myself that, I'm in school, figuring it out, and just kind of living, no real direction. And then I got this opportunity to start working. I was living in West Texas in the oil field. I got an opportunity to start working for a company called Schlumberger, which is a fracking company. Companies like Mobil, Exxon, Pioneer, BHP, they'll hire a fracking service company like Schlumberger to effectively outsource fracking their wells for them or drilling. They do all kinds of stuff. But anyway, so the oil field pays really well. So I'm from Midland, Texas, okay, and if you never heard of it, it's a really interesting town. It's a little town It's really comprised of Midland is a city, Odessa is a city. They're about, 10 miles separate them. So oftentimes they're kind of considered one and the same. And they're both just, oil field towns, right? I think maybe there's probably at this point, maybe close to like 200,000 people. So it's not a big metro, right, by any stretch. However, when Midland and Odessa are in what's called the Permian Basin, which is basically where a bunch of dinosaurs died and left a shit ton of fossil fuel. And so every now and again, there's these booms in the economy. They'll discover some, I forget what they call it, some shale. Is it shale? Shale? I don't know. But they discover like a big ass pocket of resources that they want to get at, right? Bunch of oil, all that oil. When that happens, there's a huge boom in the economy there. And so people will flock there like crazy. And so here's the crazy fact. During the last boom, at its peak, there was more wealth centered in that little Midessa. They call it Midessa, Midland and Odessa. There was more wealth in that little metro than there was in New York City, Manhattan. So you can think about that for a second. It's a lot of fucking money being thrown around when you're outpacing Wall Street. But that's really how it is. And now to give you, obviously it doesn't last forever. And it's very fleeting. And I was the beneficiary and a victim. So this is why I'm telling you guys this. So you don't get ahead of yourself like I did. But I was in my early 20s at the time when I took that job. And so I worked there for 3 years until the economy went boom, and then the bubble pops, and then they gave me a choice: either move to Houston, which I would never do. I hate Houston with a passion. Move to Houston because they were consolidating there. They were shutting down the offices in Midland. Uh, anyway, so that's when I left. But that's not the point. The point is, I was a person. I had no degree. Uh, Always considered myself smarter than the average bear, but like, who doesn't? Most people probably think that, right? Probably, maybe. Do they? I don't know. But it doesn't matter. The point is, your own assessment of yourself is probably, especially in your early 20s, is not going to almost almost guaranteed to not sync up with how the market would value you, right? So there's what you think, and then there's what the market thinks. Now, so that's why they call it a bubble. So in Midland, Odessa, I'm making with overtime and whatnot because we were working these shifts. I was in the office. I was a distribution coordinator. I think what was the pay rate? I think it was 20, maybe 21, something like that, or 24, something like that. But we were on call 24/7. So and it was unlimited overtime. It was just whatever. You just report how many hours you worked. And so, I was pulling in, like with each paycheck, like my take home was like a little over $4,000, So I'm making this kind of money for a hot minute, and I'm thinking like I'm Mr. Big Dick. Like bro, I got a $100,000 salary at least. That's what in my head, that's what I was thinking. Because for whatever reason, I've always been enamored with that number. Like that for me, for the longest time, that was just the number. I was like, man, if I can just make six figures, which six figures is not like, if you're talking six figures, $100,000, that is not what it, certainly not what it used to be. But nonetheless, I was pulling that kind of money. So when the downturn happened, I got the offer to go to Houston. So again, another ego boost. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm marketable now. I have skills. And I did. I mean, I learned some things, right? But at the end of the day, I mean, I was really, like, to that point, I was still really just like on paper, just a glorified dispatcher. I mean, that's what we would do. we were doing reconciliations, billing reconciliations, dispatching, supply chain, logistics, cutting POs, negotiating with vendors, managing, materials, well to well, personnel, well to well, schedules, all that stuff. But all that stuff, it, at a high volume, at a high clip, yeah, you could say, okay, that person's valuable. But at the same time, when you step out into the market, those skills are a dime a dozen. Like most likely, I would say most capable, generally capable people are going to be able to do a job like that. Probably the hardest part about that job was just taking calls at 3 a.m. or whatever. Um, but yeah, but that scenario where you're managing something 24/7, you don't find that in many places, right? So when I moved to Dallas, I let that job go. I'm thinking I'm going to go out to Dallas. I'm going to find a similar job. Well, I got out to Dallas. It took me like 8 months to find a job that even was paying like remotely more, or wait, that's not the right way to say it. Just I was barely getting more than it was 55K. So I went from making like over 100,000, with overtime and whatnot, to 55K salary, and that hurt me. Like, well, that's not true. It only didn't hurt because by the time I got that offer, like I said, it took 8 months. I burned through all my savings. By the time I got that offer, I was just as grateful as the offer that or the news that I just got. I was happy just because I had found a job and it was in software. I didn't want to be out doing manual labor and whatnot, but I very well could have ended up in that space. My life could have gone very differently. Anyway, so that was my first big exposure to like the world saying, brother, you ain't shit. You ain't what you thought you were. Right. And now it's obvious, like looking back at my skill set then, I mean, yeah, I don't blame anybody for the decisions that they made, right? That would be a big leap and a big, like companies don't want to cash roll your education. They want you to show up educated, kind of a thing. And I think people get bent up and twisted up about that, but hey, man, that's just how it is. Free enterprise, baby. But taking that job was the best thing I ever did because that's where I learned all of these skills, and that's why we're even here today, talking about programming and whatnot. And so I learned an incredible amount of things. And when I was at that initial job, so I started at 55. Within a year's time, I got to 75. Then there was a bump to 90. And then at that point, when I got to 90, because I was really aggressive about asking for raises. The second that I either learned something new, like learned a concept like SQL, that's why I learned SQL, so I could do a better job there. But as soon as I would learn something that I knew was impactful and that I could quantify in some way, like, hey, because, I had accounts, like we had like a 300 companies that used our software that we supported. So we resold an ERP package, had some in-house stuff, and I was managing those accounts. And I thought, man, this would be a lot easier job if I didn't have to wait on developers to do all these things for me all the time. Like all I was doing is just relaying messages, basically, just a secretary. That's what I felt like. I was tired of that shit. So I dug into it. But my point is, I was very aggressive about getting these raises. So by the time I left that company, I started at 55 and I exited making just north of 150. Which was, I felt that's what I was worth. And I'm telling you this because at each point in that process, when I would go and ask for more, I'm not saying that it's not guaranteed. It just isn't. So I was very blessed, but I was able to make myself indispensable to that company. And so that's why I was able to get those raises. Because oftentimes if you're faced with, losing something that is like, even if it is an ego check, if you're faced with losing an employee that brings something critical, nobody else can do it, and they're telling you they got another offer and they're being professional about it and they're giving you a heads up, what are you going to do? Like it's just business, right? provided you can afford it and it's not astronomical. It's just business. Just do it. Now, another thing I'll tell you guys, I swear we're going to get to Swift, so don't worry about it. But one thing that I learned too, even though I was aggressive in the sense that, I was getting a raise every year and not some bullshit, 1, 2%. But I also found out that people there was a guy I remember, I won't say his name obviously, but he's a good dude, nothing against him, but he didn't have my motor, right? He didn't work as hard as me. He didn't work there as long as me. I mean, I trained the guy, so obviously. He didn't know as much SQL as me. He did not grasp inventory concepts, and he was not the presenter that I am either. There were just a lot of things that I would, objectively say, like, he's not at my level yet. And he was younger, so maybe he will be. But I'm just saying he just wasn't at that time. Well, come to find out, this guy at the time when he was hired, he was an MBA. He had an MBA. And so, he comes in making 120, and at the time I was making 90, and caught wind of it. And so for me, I won't say how I caught wind of it, but but to me, like that can be a sticky situation because for me, I knew instantly that it was an opportunity for me to make more money because clearly they were willing to pay this person X amount just to get him in the door and fulfill a role. And I knew because I was, there was the owner, the president, and then I was basically her right hand, you know. She would take me everywhere. We would basically do everything. She would lean on me for technical expertise, and then I would have my own projects, go on site, do trainings, do BI reports, stuff like that, and train on the system. Now, and so I had a good pulse on the assessment of everybody that worked at that company. They had no real complaints about this person. So when I found out about what they were willing to pay him, obviously they're not going to come to me, like even if they do think that I have a higher output, right? They're not going to come to me and say, "Hey, we just hired a guy who doesn't have your skill set, but he's going to fulfill a role. And because he's an MBA, he's not going to come and work for us for any less than 120. We do need him. We need his skill set. So, I mean, the fact that he fulfills a role for a certain dollar amount, that's one thing. That's an isolated thing. Okay. The comparison to what I do, my output, and what I make is not on the radar. And there's no, I mean, this sounds obvious to say, but I'll say it. These companies, they don't have any, like, forget about what you think the relationship is. People have a relationship with their wallets, their books, right? So they're not going to come find you and be like, "Hey, we hired this guy at 120. We know that your output is higher and you do everything that he's doing and more. So we're going to go ahead and bump you and scale it, relative to, so if he's making 120, we're going to bump you." They're not going to do that shit. Why would they do that? Of course not. That's part of the reason why you're not allowed to talk about salaries and all that stuff, right? Because it is really and truly less a function of what you do and how you do it, and more a function of, did you negotiate up front? Like, like now is not the time to be complaining and all that. Your chance to get the salary that you wanted was when you signed the contract, to a certain extent. Anyway, the point is, you should not feel bad for yourself if you find yourself in that situation, because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. That's just business. And nobody's doing anything wrong if you find out that you're in that situation. No one did anything wrong, and no one was beholden to you to let you know that. Now, I did not want to hear that when I found out, right? But it's true. But I at least had the opportunity to go and say, okay, now that I know that's a fact, I can go quantify what I do and go demand more money and let the chips fall where they may. And so now that I'm coming to, anyway, yada yada, that's the end of that story. So my point is that, going from 55 to almost 3x what that was by the time I exit. But that took a lot of, like, I don't know, I would say half the time that I worked there, which was basically a decade, I was in some form or fashion, I was negotiating a raise because it would go for long periods. I would ask for more money. The president goes to the owner. They talk. The owner starts, now she won't talk to me. There was all this, there's tension, and I had to be willing to be uncomfortable at work for long periods of time while negotiations were going down. It would just be awkward. It just was. Anyway, um, now going back to the whole salary negotiation thing, what I told this fellow with this new job, this job is, I think the posting was between 110, 120. And I told him, I said, if I take this job, I said, for one, absolutely, you're gonna have to, the offer letter has to be at your high end. So the 120. I said, but I need to see, like, somewhere in there, what are the things that I can achieve to get back to at least where I was? Because part of the whole like streaming thing and what we're doing here in the app MRP Panda that I want to build and all that, my approach, I'm thinking about things a lot differently now because I'm not honestly really even trying to, like, if I can get back to it, great. But honestly, my number is really around like 130. Like if I get back up to 130, which I'll be like 15 shy of that initially at the new job. If I get 130-ish, but I'm able to only work 8 hours a day, because at my other job, and this is what I was telling you at first, my other job, I was working of my own free will, by the way. No one was forcing me to do this, but I felt compelled to do this. But I was working, like I said, like 14-hour days. I felt like I constantly had something to prove. And not only that, I was grateful for the opportunity. Going back to that whole don't do favors, just fulfill your duty thing, right? I was doing all kinds of favors, right? But now I'm looking at it a little wiser now that I'm older. I don't have the energy to do that anymore. I just don't. Like the other day when I told you I stayed up all night Thursday preparing for that presentation Friday morning, which is a bad habit that I have, but man, that shit just, oh, it takes me out. I used to be able to recover, I would, like, if I stayed up all night working on something and just went to bed at a normal time the following day, no real side effects, no real difference, right? I would just feel normal. Now it's like 2 days. Like I got to get to bed on time the following day. And even when I wake up the subsequent day, I'm still took out. Like my body, I can feel it. I can just feel the fatigue in my bones. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's something that I got to clean up. But anyway, my point is that from my perspective now, after experiencing a layoff, I don't want I don't want to depend on my job, my 9 to 5, my day job, we'll call it. I don't want to depend on that solely. What I'd rather do is find a method to match it. Like I think that would be just to kind of gamify it a little bit. But that's what I want to do. So if let's say I'm making 130 for my day job, and then over time, let's say over the course of 2 years or so, if just being really aggressive, right? If I'm streaming, if I'm streaming programming content, streaming gaming content, two things that I enjoy doing. So that's important, right? Because if it's something you're going to do repeatedly and put effort into, you should enjoy it. Okay, so that's that. And then also eventually we'll be actually building applications as well. So those will be out on the App Store. That's another form of income. Maybe like MRP Panda will be an iOS app and a desktop application, a web application. So that's my plan really is, yeah, like get a good job. Yes, great. And one of the reasons I wanted this job was I wanted a job that would lend itself towards the other things that I want to do, which this one is perfect because it's BI delivery. I'll be working with data all day, every day, all kinds of different organizations. So that means not only will I be working with schemas, data visualization, but also transformations, ETL type stuff to actually move the data around, and then also, presentations about it. Because we're going to have a kind of a, I guess you can call it a course for lack of a better term, but it's more like a hub, right? But I'll constantly be generating content around data visualization, BI type stuff. Okay. So I wanted a job that lent itself towards content that I could make here. Because like I told you guys before, I don't like learning from YouTube influencers or just influencers in general that purport to be about a particular domain or space, but they haven't worked in it in like however long. Okay. Very hesitant to take advice from somebody that their job is to just make content, meaning their job is to generate views. So think think about the last time you would sacrifice making money for a complete stranger. You wouldn't, right? Why would you do that? Maybe you do, but I don't think most people would. Influencers are no different. They're making videos based on what the views tell them to make videos on. There's always going to be a conflict of interest there. And there's always going to be a conflict in terms of the level of, I'll say, the level of enthusiasm they put into something. And so I'm just saying, you're going to get a lot of ill-advised, overeager kinds of feedback against a certain technology simply because that's their job. That's how they make money. They need those views. And obviously everything's going to be great. It's rare that you find a video where they're just like ripping apart a piece of technology. Why do you think that is? That's weird, right? I mean, obviously there's plenty of hate videos, but I'm talking if you look at popular influencers in that space, like Prime or Theo or what, almost everything that they make videos on is praise. They'll bash things now and again, but it's rare that you're just not going to find that. That doesn't sell. And that's just something that, I mean, that's kind of widely held knowledge. That's just generally speaking, people in that context don't want to hear about how terrible something is. They would rather watch something about how great it is, chop it up, edit it, and make it look so simple, get people excited. And more than likely, the people that are watching your videos are people that already use the thing anyway. They just want to hear, they want validation that, okay, my technology is good. Oh, I feel good. I feel good. The big influencer likes my technology. I'm okay because I'm using this. It's ridiculous when you really think about it. But that's the game. So I say all that to say, I feel like things are really lining up here. And I want to be smarter. I can't say smart exclusively, but smarter about it this time and how we approach things. We're going to build things, not just apps, but apps included. We're going to build a life system that is indisputably what should the next word be? Indisputably viable in the long term. How about that? Viable in the long term. That's really what I want. That way, in the end, like let's say this job goes for 5 years or something, and then peters out, and I get laid off again. Well, I'll know this was a success if I can just take that in stride and just like anything else, just drop in a new thing right where the job was, but not necessarily a job. So that's my goal by that point. Because if I'm doing other things, right, truly doing other things, branching out, putting my eggs in different baskets. That's how I think we get there. So that's the goal. Now that I know I got the job, that's what we're moving towards. So I mean, if you're feeling that, if you're about that, that's what you're gonna get here, watching me or listening to me. And that I'm saying all this to say, finally, that is the level of advice that you can expect from me. Like now that you know where my head's at, okay? Because that's what I believe in: diversity, building up skills over, networking. Yeah, sure, that's important, but building up your skills so that no matter where you go, you're valuable and you're useful, which is, of course, it's based in technology, but there's more to it than that. But yeah, that's what we're about. And I got to pee again because I'm drinking all this water. And so I got to mute myself. Hold on. I'm like a sleepwalker. Hot dog. Let me just send my girl a. Oh boy. And that's good news. Okay, so let me screenshot this right fast. Bum, ba, da, da. She's a freak out. All right. Okay. Boy, oh boy. So let me grab. Y'all can see how I end up doing things last minute, right? Honestly, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna say it. I kind of laugh at people when they, because it's cool. Like these days, it's very, very cool on the internet. There's this weird thing, and I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And yes, I truly hate it. And this is not about any one specific person, so don't worry. You're not you're not part of a hate center here, but I hate this mindset, I'll say. But I'm sure you've heard this before or noticed this rather, but for whatever reason, it's become very, very trendy, very cool, very normal to self-deprecate and overshare. And it's I think part of it is like attention porn, as I call it. Like, they just anything for attention, like, oh, I'm so depressed, or when people say like, oh, my anxiety is just like through the roof watching that, or everyone's depressed, everyone has anxiety, everyone's bipolar, everyone. I'm like, man, how weird that all of a sudden everybody has ADD. Everyone has ADHD. Everyone has anxiety. Everyone's depressed. How in the world did this happen? Oh, my social anxiety is going crazy. No, it's not. You don't ever talk to anybody. You don't ever go do anything. So you build it up in your mind like it's this crazy thing. It's not. You didn't forget how to do it. You just ain't done it in a long time. So I'm not sure necessarily if it's like a Zoomer thing. Although I know, I mean, because I'm a millennial. Actually, I can't say I know it's not strictly a Zoomer thing because I know people my age in my generation that do that. But it certainly seems more prevalent now. But one thing that I do think applies to the younger generation, not exclusively, but it's certainly more prevalent, is the oversharing. Like now it almost seems like it's a contest to see who can tell the most fucked up story about their life. You know, like comparing suffering, that kind of a thing. I got to tell you, the second you get into a conversation like that, that's how you know you're wasting your time. If you're arguing with somebody about what they went through or what you went through or how what they went through compares to what you went through, you know, like all of that is just an incredible a waste of time. People like that, if you're like that, you know, in the same way that, you know, people say like, I don't care what you say, ain't no way somebody can tell me that, you know, and then insert whatever. You know, there's instantly no solution there. Those kind of people are complete time sucks and they're not worth your time. How about that? How did we get on this topic? I don't know, but we're just talking until I sit back down and we're finally going to start. Oh my gosh. Yeah. All right. Wow, that was a lot of talking. Okay. Center. Man, that loud ass, those weed whackers are so loud. I hope y'all can't hear it. Okay, for the more curious, functions as return types. Oh, that's what I meant to say. One more thing. I'm gonna speed through, not speed through, but we're just gonna pick up the pace now in the stream in general, just because I want to get through, I want to cover the content. And of course, since it's all recorded, you know, people can refer back or whatever, but I'm gonna make an attempt. I can't promise, but I'm gonna make an attempt to speed things up. I'm gonna skip the challenges for now. Maybe we'll come back and do a stream and just do challenges. I think that might be actually be better, just to have a more holistic view of it. Um, yeah, I think that I like that idea actually. So yeah, so we're just gonna try to pick up the pace, just generally speaking. But if the format changes a little bit, you know why. Okay, so we're gonna pick it up here for the more curious functions as return types. You've worked with several higher order functions now, but you have only worked with higher order functions that take other functions as arguments. Higher order functions can also return another function. Oh, higher order functions can also return another function. So I guess one thing I do want to understand here, does this mean like what is that? Does it return a the output of a function, or literally like the function, as in like a closure, and then you can use that closure in another function. I'm not sure what they mean, so I'm going to ask real quick. But wait, did I get in? Yeah. Um, hey, brother, where are all my chats at? Oh, okay, scared the hell out of me. All right. Let's see. The in SwiftLang, when using functions as return types, is the return function the computed value, or is it, or what? I don't know what the other side of that would be. In Swift, when a function returns another function, what is returned is not a computed value in the traditional sense, like an integer or string. Okay, that answers my question. But rather a reference to a function. This returned function can then be called elsewhere in your code. Essentially, the function you receive as a return can be seen as a callable piece of code packaged into a function. Oh, that's weird. Okay, function returning a function. In Swift, you can have a function that returns another function. This means that the output of the first function is itself a function. You can then use this output, this return function, just like any other function in Swift. What is returned? What's returned is a reference to a function, not the result of a function execution. You can think of it as returning a blueprint or a template that can be used. Yeah, so does that mean, oh, look at that. That is cool. So I wonder if, yeah, let me highlight that. That seems like, I thought somebody was hovering by the window. Creepy ass. Oh, I don't know what it is. Yeah, this seems like you could use that maybe to safeguard certain expensive operations. That way, this only gets exposed and can be used once. That kind of a thing. Let me ask it, because that, I like that. Interesting. Yeah, okay, so could this be used to, or wait, does this mean you could use implementation access to certain functions that you would only want to expose if other computations had taken, that you would only want to expose if other computations had taken, it should get me. Okay. Yeah, that's awesome then. Yeah, I kind of, I recall seeing this in OCaml, and I thought that was really, that was honestly the main draw, because that made a lot of sense to me from a, like, as a control point. from a control point perspective. Because with MRP, it's basically all that you're doing. You have this, one giant function, but at every step in the process, like go do this, go do that, go recalculate this, go recalculate that. All of those things should only happen if the conditions that would require it are met, not necessarily. I mean, I guess you could just always rerun everything, but that's very wasteful and it's going to be slow. And so this is pretty, yeah. Well, let's just read about it then. Okay, if that's what it does, that's what it does. All right, then. Okay, so now that we know what that means, higher order functions can also return another function. You already know that a function that takes an argument of, say, character and returns an int is of type character. Huh? Is of type character int. Okay, yeah. But what is the type of a function that takes a character? Ugh, don't want to sneeze. And returns a string closure. I don't know. Let's explore this idea. Suppose you have a string and want to remove all occurrences of a particular character from it. Suppose you have a string and want to remove all occurrences of a particular character from it. Okay. Now imagine that you need to do this multiple times with multiple characters across multiple strings. Yeah. Yeah, I wrote, that was a big part of what I was doing in Go, like something like this all the time because we had to clean up these old dusty Access database exports, clean them up, ingest them, and then run them through our pipelines. But so being a stylish developer, you decide to write a function to help out. Go ahead and enter it in your playground. Okay. All right. Func make character remover for. Okay, so what are we doing? We've keyword func, we named the function. The opening parentheses starts our parameter list for the function signature. For is an external parameter name for the internal parameter, which is character. And we're saying that it is of type character. Why does that word look so weird spelled out? I don't often see it spelled out. And then it will return it returns a function. So that's why okay, that's a closure. Okay, yeah. So the return type is a closure, which is, so we'll have a tuple with a single element of a string. And it returns a regular string, just regular old string, regular string. And then we open up the ply. No, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Weird. Oh, I guess you can do it both ways because before right up here, where was it? Where we had a closure. I gotta find the, like, well, it's not a great example, but never mind. Let's just keep going. Yeah, because that's not a great example. Okay, so func remove from, but I guess the distinction here is we know remove from, like this function, it's one that we're defining within the body of this other function for the first time. So it exists nowhere else. Okay, so external parameter can be anything. Internal parameter name is input. It will accept a string. It will return a string. Return value that needs to be a string will be input dot. Okay, so we're filtering. We're applying the filter method call against the input we receive. Well, what are we doing here? What is this? So not equals, so we're saying the first argument, so from a 0 index, so we're saying that input, or return true or false as to whether or not the input string is not equal to is not equal to just a character. So if it's more than a single character, then it would come back true. That seems like what it's saying? And then for the parent function, we return, what is she? She's so cute. She is the best. All right, remove from. That is trippy looking, but I get it. So, okay, so return the function. So well, they're going to tell us. I'm pretty sure that's what that's saying though. So we name this function, make character remover, give it an external parameter of 4, internal parameter name of character, and it's of type character, and it will return a tuple with a single element of type string, which will return a string. Okay, yeah. And then we say, so func remove from, and that just lets us we don't have to name the first argument if we do that. So that's why that wildcard is there, then input of a string, and it returns a string. And then we run the filter on the input. Yeah, okay, that looks right. 45, brother. This function takes in a character as its argument and returns a function that will strip all instances of the character from a passed-in string. A word. So for wait, what? For character? Function takes any character that will. Recall that a string is a collection of characters, of character instances. Yeah. It has the filter method, just like the array type does. The inner remove from remove from function uses filter to filter out all instances of the character provided to the outer function. Provided to the outer function. Wait, the inner to filter out all instances of the character provided to the outer function. Okay. How do you call it? Yeah, that's weird. How do you notice that since a function is a closure and captures its enclosing scope, remove from has access to the local variable character owned by the outer function. Notice that since a function is a closure, yeah. Yeah, so this function make character remover, its scope starts here. So yeah. So what are they? So what? Oh, I should say it has access to the whatever we pass to this function as the character argument. Okay. Um, now you can use make character remover for to generate as many character specific remove from functions as you want using the returned function. Oh, there we go. That's what I wanted to see. See, it's so I think that's probably the hardest or maybe the most frustrating part. Not the hardest part, although it is kind of hard to accept, I guess. But I mean, these concepts make sense to me, but that is a concept making sense to you is still miles apart from knowing how to implement it. See what I'm saying? So that's why I'm eager to get to actually building stuff. I'm sure a lot of this stuff is going to just kind of, you know, it's just going to make sense when you see it in a pragmatic use case for the first time. So thank goodness for examples. Let remove lowercase case. Oh, let remove lowercase l's. Let's see. Oh, you sneaky little dog. I see what you're doing. For one. For one. All right, let him cook. Let him cook. Strange greeting equal. Remove lowercase l's. World. What? So now strange greeting would embody both. So we pass. Yeah, what are y'all doing? Let let remove lower case. Is that a O? O's make character remover for let stranger. Let stranger greeting equal remove lowercase o's. What the fuck? So stranger greeting. We're calling remove lowercase o's on. Yeah. Nope. No idea what's an output. You can see in the playground sidebar. Oh, you want me to run it? Oh. So so this is just a, what do they call these? A function type? I think it's what they call them. Well, I guess these all are technically, but let strange greeting equal remove lowercase l's. Okay, so no change here. But then make character remover for O. I mean, I get this one that we're saying character remover for O. And then let stranger greeting equal this function of removing lowercase o's. And the string that we pass it is strange greeting, which is the hello world. And so we get hello world as in no lowercase o's. But is that a typo or did I? Oh, I put a, that's a L, not a one. I took an L, but that's a, I mean, that's, I put a one. I should have put an L. Okay, that's why that made no sense to me whatsoever. Oh, but now I don't get remove. And oh, why didn't I get any output that time? Command Shift Enter. There we go. Yeah, okay. So Hio word, because we took out the L's, line 67. Hio word. Okay, that makes sense, yeah. And then after the fact, we pass Hio word. So this is equal to Hio word, and then we end up passing stranger greeting in here and removing the lowercase o's. So now it's just he word. Okay. I get it. That's cool. Yeah, no, that's actually, well, let's do we haven't done this in a little bit. Let's go look at how Go will handle this because I like to compare things. So ba, 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 ba. Is that it? No, that's code cat. There it is. I can never see which one is actually it. All right, converter, Swift, to Golang. Actually, I just want to see the return function part. Because I never did this in Go, but I think you can do it, I believe. Yeah, so let's see. Func make character remover character of type rune. Rune. I forget what those are. What is a Golang? Doesn't Svelte have a concept of a rune also? Oh, that is okay. That's what character is. Okay. Um, func. So you can do it, but then you say func string. Oh, so you just declare it right outside the, yeah, return func. Return strings dot replace all input string character. I mean, pretty similar. I mean, I think my biggest thing that I kind of have flip-flopped on, but I'm definitely coming around to like I just like seeing the let. It just instead of just seeing it like this with the little assignment, which you can write this in Go, I believe, right? You can write consts, so and that would be the same thing. So you could do const instead of let const and then not have to do this, but this is I know that little operator. That's like the standard. That's what you see in all the code bases and whatnot. I don't know. I just don't like it, but it's not all that different, is it? So then let's see. Where were we? Oh, right, he word. So we got through that, and then you can see in the playground sidebar that remove lowercase l's and remove lowercase o's are both variables of type string, or a tuple string, return a string. And strange greeting and stranger greeting are stripped strings emitted by them. Yeah. Admittedly, this approach is a little over-engineered. A more readable and concise approach might be to define a single function of type character string. Oh, I see. And return a string. To take in a string and a character to remove from it. Oh, yeah, yeah. Returning the resulting string. Such a function might look like this. Okay. Func remove character of type character from string. This makes a lot more sense now when they were saying the external parameter, changing the name to make it more usable. This I mean, whatever they showed us back then, it didn't really resonate, but this makes a lot more sense because, again, a practical application is always going to speak to you more so you can make sense of it. Character. Oops. There we go. And then what is this here? Let British greeting equal remove. Yeah. See, like here you can see why you might do that. So in this case, we don't have to name the parameter because of the underbar on line 73 ahead of character, so we don't have to. But we're saying remove H, character H, from external parameter name, hello world. Yeah, that is way more concise. Let British greeting. Wait, what? Oh, did I miss a func remove? String. Huh? Func remove. Character. 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 String. Oh, I sure did. My bad. Rookie. Okay. So now, run, brother. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it wasn't running all the way. It's weird. Okay, but we get it now. So yeah, so remove let British greeting equal remove H from hello world. I like it. I dig it. I like it a lot. So I do got to get going now because I got to get ready for something. But I know I yammered on a lot today. I apologize. Well, hey, sorry. I can say sorry to y'all. What the fuck? You know what? That's life. No, I'm playing. No, but we'll be back at it tomorrow. Thanks for listening to me rant. I just had to go on for a bit. Gloat in my in the good news just a bit, just embellish just a bit. But we want to stay humble. So that's the end of that. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. And also don't forget, if you like Halo, if you like me, or you like competition, or you like whatever, make sure you tune in tonight for the Halo stream. Hopefully they fix the servers tonight so we can actually get down and do that again. Try it again. But yeah, I'm clapping cheeks now, y'all. I'm getting that skill back. My DMR is definitely back. I'm feeling good. That's why I was so heartbroken last night. But even still, we're definitely getting to Onyx. I'm on day 43 tonight of I'm on day 43 tonight of 100 days of rank to get to Onyx. So I'm Platinum 5 now. So Platinum 6, Platinum 7, and then 7 more through Diamond. Yeah, so 9 more tiers to go, and more than half of the allotted time period of 100 days to get there. So we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Make sure you tune in tonight, 9 p.m., somewhere around there. I start 9:30 CST, play for 2-3 hours. That's an everyday thing unless said otherwise, much like this. So hope I see you there. If not, I'll see you here tomorrow around the same time. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace and love, baby.